This video is going to describe action potentials. But before we get to action potentials, we need to cover a topic called graded potentials. Graded potentials are short distance signals that are sent throughout the neuron. So we have our neuron here. I'm going to draw quickly. Here's the dendrites that are surrounding the cell body. And here's the axon, more or less. And here's our little nucleus. Okay, and so we know that the dendrites are receiving information, the dendrites in the cell body. So here's information coming in. And the information that is coming in actually changes the membrane potential. So the resting membrane potential, it's also called the membrane potential of a neuron, is at negative 70. But as signals come in, it's going to change the differential of the membrane potential. And it's going to kind of, just go up a little bit or just go down a little bit, depending on whether it's a signal that excites the neuron or inhibits the neuron. So these graded potentials are kind of constantly coming into our neuron, sending information. Now, if the frequency of a graded potential increases, or the number of graded potentials from different neurons increase, that may bring the membrane voltage up to this point at negative 55 millivolts. And that's a key point. This is called threshold. So if a number of graded potentials come in and bring this membrane voltage up to threshold, that is going to lead to an action potential. And the action potential is the signal that is sent down the axon and ultimately across the synapse. So down the axon, it's going through as an electrical signal, but across the synapse, it's going to be a chemical signal. Once threshold has been reached, both sodium and potassium channels open up. But sodium channels are fast and potassium channels are slow. So sodium opens up quickly, sends sodium rushing into the cell. And as that sodium, that positively charged sodium, rushes in, it's going to make it less negative inside the cell membrane, and that's going to decrease the amount of difference between the inside and the outside. And it's going to decrease it so much, it actually goes into the other direction. Okay? Just as the action potential peaks right here, those sodium channels are going to become inactivated while the potassium channels finally have caught up and opened. So potassium is going to go rushing outside of the cell. And so sodium was positive and going inside, so that depolarized the cell. And potassium is positive, but it's leaving, so it's going to repolarize the cell. Okay, so as that potassium leaves, the difference is going to increase, and it's actually going to increase so much that it goes below resting membrane potential. So here we have resting membrane potential, and here is hyper. I'm unfortunately outside of where I can write. Let's try that again. 2. So down here is hyperpolarization. Okay, so once we've gotten down here, down in this area, those potassium channels start to close up. And the kind of passive, the normal passive ion channels are going to allow resting membrane potential to be re-established. Okay, we're back to resting membrane potential here. So passive ion channels are going to establish resting membrane potential, and the sodium potassium pump maintains resting membrane potential. Once this action potential reaches the end of the axon, it turns into that chemical message that we've gone over when we've talked about synaptic transmission. So I encourage you to also watch that video. One of the best ways to study this would be to create a table that had kind of the different parts: resting membrane potential, depolarization, repolarization, hyperpolarization, and reestablishment, and identify any ion movement, open or closed channels that happen at each of those steps. I hope you find this video helpful. Thank you. To close out this video, we have a special Patriots Day goodbye.
Goodbye.